Hello and welcome to Legendary Tractors. If you love legendary tractors from the good old days, this is the channel for you. Today, we are going to chat about David Brown tractors, starting around the time that David Brown and J.I. Case merged in 1972. I am going to also share a piece of advertising literature that details the David Brown models being sold at the time, and we can talk about how well the J.I. Case marketing team did in trying to sell these tractors. Before we begin, please take a moment to give a thumbs up if you liked the video, along with commenting on what you like or didn't like about either the video or these tractors. I would also love to hear about your favorite tractors that you would like to see some videos made about, and I will see what I can do about that in the future. Finally, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you will be notified when the next Legendary Tractor video comes out. I really appreciate you taking the time to do these things, as it helps me to bring you more content about legendary tractors.
You'll be using this Aston Martin DB5 with modifications.
So, what does James Bond and his Aston Martin DB5 have to do with David Brown tractors? Here's a little hint. The DB in Aston Martin cars stands for... Yup, Sir David Brown, who happened to own both Aston Martin Car Company and David Brown Tractors. Okay, for the purposes of our story today, the fact that he also owned Aston Martin is not really relevant, but it is kind of cool. So I'm going to do a little speculation about the merger of David Brown and J.I. Case.
Speculation in our society is a way of becoming fact.
Well, let's give you a little legal disclaimer that the following are my opinions and nobody else's and should not be used for intelligent, factual conversations or something like that. Around 1964, Tenneco found itself owning J.I. Case. While Case was certainly a player in the market, they were not John Deere or International Harvester. After all, if we combine the Case 1030 and 970 tractors, which were their 100 horsepower models from roughly 1964 to 1972, they made about 22,000 tractors. John Deere built about 185,000 4020s, and IH built about 70,000 806 and 856 tractors during that same time frame. Even though the Case 1030 certainly fit into the muscle tractor category, it just really didn't look and feel like one. That styling was right out of the late 1950s. It really feels to me like Tenneco ran with whatever was profitable and didn't do a lot with research and development until these things were way past their expiration date. Now, around about 1970 or so, Tenneco finally got their act together and came out with the 70 series, which got it into the modern age. By the way, check out my video on the 970 and 1070 tractors. Now, Case still had a problem in that they were still left with the 470 and 570, which were really just revamped 430 and 530 tractors. These were just not selling anymore, and whether Case didn't want to or didn't have the money to design smaller tractors, I'm sure is something that could be debated. Either way, it became attractive to find another company to merge with who had good selling tractors in this horsepower class. Alright, let's talk about David Brown's situation a little bit. The Model 990 had been around for a few years, but the 885, 995, 1210 and 1212 models were relatively new when the merger talks began, and I am sure that the 1410 and 1412 were on the drawing board. That had to have been pretty attractive to Case. After all, these were pretty well built machines that were farmer tested, and best of all, Case would not need to put in the R&D to develop. Now, David Brown, on the other hand, had a bit of their own problems. They were in a bit of a pickle, as most of the British manufacturers of the day were also. Their economy had hit a bit of a rough patch, and peak market saturation had been reached at this point. They had been trying to find a good way into the American market for a while at that point. They started out looking for a partner. They tried Oliver. The Oliver 500 was a rebadged David Brown 850 and was sold from 1961 to 1963. Only 1,648 managed to get sold over here though. I'm not sure if maybe there was an issue price-wise or if something else may have affected the deal, but Oliver moved on to Fiat for its small tractors, and David Brown tried to go it alone in America by starting its own dealer network, in which I would say they were somewhat successful. There are a significant number of the brown belly David Browns still being used in the United States today. So by 1971 or 72, this was looking like a pretty good deal for both companies. So they pulled the trigger, and this brochure that we are about to talk about was one of the first put out by Case in 1974 to market the 1410, 1412 tractors along with their smaller stablemates. Let's take a look, shall we? Case David Brown tractors, 885, 990, 995, 1210, 1212, 1410, 1412 diesels. New 80 PTO horsepower, 1412 Hydroshift, 1410 Synchromesh, top of the Case David Brown line.
They're top of the line.
Top of the line.
Yes?
It's top of the line.
Top of the line?
If you've been using tractors up to 65 horsepower, your next logical step up in power is the new David Brown 12-speed 1410 Synchromesh or 1412 Hydroshift. New hydrostatic steering with a transverse mounted cylinder that moves with the axle provides increased accuracy for precise steering. New oil immersed disc brakes aid in steering with right and left pedals. 80 horses won't say no. You'll be surprised at the power, acceleration, and response this turbocharged direct injection diesel packs into its 219 cubes. Live Selectomatic hydraulics. A single lever controls depth, height, controlled weight transfer, and external services. 3-point hitch takes any Category 2 implement, lifts up to 3,600 pounds. Independent 540 PTO. The hand-operated power takeoff clutch is completely independent of the traction clutch. If anyone happens to know what model plow this is, would you please leave me a comment? I know Case was starting to sell Oliver and White plows around this time, but this looks different than those. I'm thinking that it might be an honest-to-goodness Case. Let me know what you think. 65 PTO horsepower, 1212 Hydroshift, 1210 Synchromesh. Big power in a compact package.
Big firepower in a small package.
Big power.
The 65 horsepower tractor has a lot of things going for it, like 12 forward speeds with either 1212 power shift or 1210 Synchromesh transmission. Okay, a couple things about this picture. I am a sucker for tractors with their ROPS with a canopy. I think that they look as cool as all get out, and this David Brown does not disappoint. The second thing is, what is going on with the dent in the front of this thing? It is definitely not the way that it is supposed to be. There's another picture of a 1210 coming up later in the video that I'll point out how it's supposed to look. Record-breaking diesel. This 4-cylinder David Brown develops the highest horsepower per cubic inch in the industry for non-turbo engines. Independent multi-speed PTO. Exclusive multi-speed PTO delivers 1000 RPMs at 2000 engine speed for heavy work, 540 at 1100 engine speed for maximum fuel economy on light PTO haying jobs, and 540 speed at 1800 RPMs for heavier work. High clearance or low profile. Heavy outboard reduction units can be rotated to provide a choice of low or high crop clearance with the same tractor. 58 PTO horsepower, 995 synchro mesh, Husky field and chore power.
Does this make me look husky?
Like its bigger brothers, this tough, compact 58 horsepower David Brown had the most deluxe fender and lighting system in the industry. The crown fenders protect you from mud and water. The lights protect you on the road, day or night. Deluxe Pull Power 2. In official tests, the 995's maximum drawbar pull was 7,107 pounds, 12% more than the average for its class. 4-cylinder diesel. Official test figures for the average fuel consumption is 2 1/4 gallons per hour. You can expect low maintenance too with its toughened crankshaft and aluminum tin bearings. 12-speed synchro mesh transmission. Combines shift on the go shifting and a foot throttle, making driving so easy. Many tractors in this class don't even offer 12 speeds. Some do at an extra cost, but here it's standard equipment. Independent multi-speed PTO. Like the 1210 and 1212, the 995 has a completely independent PTO. It provides a 1000 PTO speed at 2000 engine RPM, a 540 speed at 1800 RPM, and a 540 at 1100 RPM. 53 PTO horsepower, 990 synchro mesh. Most popular Case David Brown tractor ever made.
The most popular. Why?
Well, because you get a big day's work done with this tough, versatile David Brown, no matter what the job. It's made for fast loading. All David Browns are made for loading because the Husky box section frame absorbs loader strain. Continuous multi-speed PTO. The 990's continuous running power takeoff is controlled by a 3-stage traction clutch. First stage controls the transmission. Second stage is neutral to prevent riding either clutch. Third stage controls the PTO. You can stop forward motion of the tractor without affecting PTO power. Tops and drawbar pull. The 990 sailed through official tests with flying colors. Its maximum drawbar pull was 7,335 pounds, highest in its class. 43 PTO horsepower, 885 synchro mesh. Economical all-around workhorse.
The workhorse that is willing to work itself to death and then be put out to pasture.
Any farm, big or small, has a well-worn niche for a versatile 40 horsepower tractor, and this 885 is designed to fit into almost any general farm, truck farm, vineyard, orchard, or grove. 2 models to fit your needs. 885 standard row crop provides 48 to 72 inch adjustable front tread, 56 to 76 inch adjustable rear tread to handle almost any row crop need. 885 narrow, same as 885 standard except extra compact overall size and a 39 to 59 inch adjustable wheel treads, designed especially for vineyards, groves, orchards, and truck farms. Growing up in the wine country of the Finger Lakes of New York State, it was pretty common to see 885 narrow models operating in the vineyards, and they still are seen getting it done from time to time. Rugged 3-cylinder diesel. High horsepower displacement ratio gives this David Brown exceptional lugging power. Why you get more tractor dollar with Case David Brown. So remember that dent I talked about on the 1210 earlier? Yeah, this one don't have one. David Brown tractors offer many attractive features that you either don't find on other tractors or they cost extra. Exclusive, massive cast iron frame. Real farm power plus economy. Hydrostatic power steering. Shift on the go sinker mesh. Hydro shift on 1212 and 1412. Single lever select-o-matic hydraulics. Category 1 or 2 3-point hitch. Exclusive multi-speed PTO. Differential lock standard. Foot throttle standard. Full fender protection. High clearance or low profile. Power adjustable rear wheels. Yoke type drawbar. And roll protector frame with seat belts. I want to circle back to this picture. I think that it is interesting that Case was showing implements from other manufacturers, as we have seen a few pictures with Gale equipment in this brochure as well. This here is a Bush Hog Model 307 rotary cutter. My dad sold these at his dealership in the early 70s, about the same time that this brochure was produced. He used to tell a story about how he rented one of these out to a farmer sometime in the late spring, early summer. A few days later, he got a phone call from a neighboring farmer of the guy who rented it. The guy told Dad that he was going to rent it as well, and that he would mail Dad a check to cover the rental. Well, the phone calls kept coming along, and the checks did too. He said that there were about 25 farmers who rented it, and by the time Dad caught up with it in the late fall, the unit had traveled about 50 miles away from the original farm that he dropped it off at. The Model 307, along with its little brother, the 105, really set Bush Hog on the path to greatness and made the rotary mower industry what it is today. In my opinion, it is still one of the greatest mowers ever built. Alright, let's finish up the brochure, and then I got a few closing thoughts. Want service with a solid backup? Our job, Case and its dealers, is to keep your tractors operating at their peak performance. That means factory-trained dealer servicemen who know what makes a tractor perform best from grill to hitch, and the right kind of shop equipment. Over 4,000 dealer mechanics attended Case service schools in the last 3 years. It takes prompt parts service too. Case maintains a giant service parts supply facility at Racine, plus 10 strategically located parts depots throughout North America. Most interesting to you would be the computerized operation being implemented. An emergency order phoned in by your Case dealer is transmitted in minutes to a centralized computer. The computer instantly and automatically locates the parts, then writes the order, speeding the picking, packing, and shipping to meet your needs. Odds are your Case dealer already has the part. If not, it's good to have this computerized giant ready to handle your order. Prompt service is the aim of your Case dealer. Now is the time to schedule your future service needs with him. One of the things that I think that makes tractors so special, at least to me anyway, is the people who have touched them along the way. This brochure originally came from Killam Farm Equipment Ltd. in Killam, Alberta, Canada. I am guessing that Killam Farm Equipment was owned by J&M Lindsay & Sons. When I googled all that information, I pretty much came up with Bumpkus. So maybe one of you viewers knows a thing or two and can fill me in. Curiosity is kind of killing the cat here. Now let's talk about the difference between the mergers. The merger between David Brown and Case probably had some hiccups, but all in all, it seemed to be, from at least an outside perspective, amicable between the two and with the customers as well. It is rare to have negative comments on social media that paints a negative picture of either of these companies during this time period. Now, when it comes to the IH and Case merger, it has been 40 years on, and there are still catfights about how awful that was. To the point that I wonder if, to a certain extent, that is why Case IH and New Holland are still separate brands, just because management didn't want to go through all that again. Tell me what you think about all that. So, other than the dent in the 1210, I think the Case did a pretty good job with this brochure. They hit a lot of good selling points. There were enough pictures to keep it interesting, and I don't feel like my intelligence was insulted by reading it. I think that all in all, these David Brown tractors were very good units, and that extended all the way through to the 94 series. They really are legendary tractors. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your legendary tractor loving friends. I would also love to hear from you on your thoughts about these David Brown tractors, so leave me a comment. Please subscribe if you have not already done so. I hope that you have a great day, and I will see you next time.